If you follow me on Twitter, you know that I was recently invited to an exquisite and fanciful private screening of Dunkirk because I am a highly respected member of Hollywood. Yeah, no, that's not true. I was invited as a guest by someone who was actually invited. But the reason why I bring this up is because we drove down to Hollywood and watched the film in this really nice theater with great image and sound. And boy, oh fucking boy, if there is a movie to watch in a theater with great image and sound, it's Valerian. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's Dunkirk. This movie is downright gorgeous, with slick editing and coloring, which isn't exactly my area of expertise, but is certainly something that I can appreciate. There's some really inventive and horrifying shots in here, particularly that one right at the beginning when the beach is being bombed and all the sand spills onto Tommy. That was a highlight for me. And the sound! Jesus Christ! Hans Zimmer pulls through again with this suspenseful music that's just always there, always building to something, and the gunfire and scream of the planes as they whiz by overhead, it's fucking bananas. But all of that is just icing on the cake. What I want to talk about is how Dunkirk achieves its highly realistic and historically accurate tone that allows the movie to function. If you haven't seen it, let me explain. Dunkirk is a story that isn't really told in the same way as many others. There isn't a whole lot of focus on backstory or characterization or character arcs and all that normal story stuff. It's very devoid of things that feel like engineered plot beats, and as a result, it almost doesn't even really feel like a movie. It's not about the characters or the story, but instead about the experience of being there and witnessing what real people once had to witness. It feels like the movie is trying to show you a little slice of history, which, surprise, surprise, it is. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work as a story. You're still invested in the stakes, the characters, and the suspenseful situation as it unfolds, just not via the methods that storytellers usually employ. It doesn't need to spend time on establishing character motive, because the audience already knows and understands what their motivation is. They don't want to die.
It puts a group of men, in this case, into a terrifying situation and invites, through this visceral treatment, the audience to go, this is what it's like. So you don't need to know where they're from. Nobody seems to have a surname or a backstory or anything. You don't need to. It's only about being in this situation now.
Yeah, shit, man, exactly that. I couldn't and still can't say it better. Bringing you into that mindset where you feel the fear the characters feel just from projecting yourself onto them isn't an easy task, and here the blank slate methodology is used fittingly on the entire cast in a way that lines up with the historical setting and the themes, rather than just being used on the protagonist of an anime for the sake of wish fulfillment. This lack of regular storytelling methods is evident not just with the characters, but also with the moment-to-moment plot. There's plenty of things left unexplained, plenty of things that are there precisely to go against your expectations. There's setup with no payoff. There's things that go wrong that don't have immediate causes. You thought this guy was going to be important, but nope, he's fucking dead. It's actually this guy. Even with just individual shots and moments, the movie restrains itself from being a regular movie, sacrifices what could be a really cool story beat or action sequence, all for the sake of a more realistic approach. And it does wonders for the film. Because even though refraining from that might make the movie sound boring, it actually has the opposite effect. Thanks to that realism that it achieves, the movie moments and plot points of the film that actually do feel like movie moments and plot points feel that much crazier. Think of it this way. You ever see something really cool happen in like a sporting event or something and think how crazy it is that it just happened, but then consider how lame, predictable, and generic it would be if it happened in a movie? That's because movies and stories at large thrive off the incredible and spectacle. They're about showing us the fantastic, the abnormal. They need to be, because otherwise, the fact that it's just a movie and didn't actually happen can very easily make more realistic approaches to storytelling mundane and dull. And as a result, we've gotten used to the kind of crazy things that happen in movies but don't really happen IRL. So when these movie things do happen IRL, they feel that much more fantastical. And Dunkirk achieves the same effect with its realistic tone. You look at this absolutely ludicrous situation, you look at these soldiers who are drowning and suffering and being shot at, and your subconscious says, wow, this actually happened. What if that was me? I mean, there are Dunkirk survivors still alive today who saw this film. And obviously it didn't all actually happen down to each moment, but the realistic overtone gives you that impression, as well as driving home how absolutely insane the evacuation really was. I mean, they don't call it the miracle of Dunkirk for nothing. It was a unique and unprecedented situation. And what's great is that these actual story beats among all the realism aren't just thrown in there to wow you or create suspense. They are actually built up to with plotting and setup, but it's all very subtle and nuanced, and thus hard to notice. The unfortunate but minor downside to this is that it makes the story a little hard to follow, especially with the accents and the characters all looking alike, but it all serves that documentary-style approach to the story that I spoke of earlier. The hands guiding these plot contrivances and payoffs into their place aren't forceful or obvious, but instead delicate, careful, and inconspicuous, like a pickpocket, slipping a little story into your purse without you even noticing. Man, there's just so much I could talk about with this movie. I could talk about how much I love the recurring motif of time and how it creates the impression that this isn't a war or battle story, but instead a race to escape before time runs out and the Germans kill them all. I could talk about the incredible way that the three storylines converge towards the climax of the film. I could talk about how the editing and pace of the film makes it so
you will only have time to feel and react just like these people in the movie, so that by the end of it you'll feel you were right there with them.
I could talk about that moment right at the end when the soldier complains to the Air Force guy, "Where were you?" and the sailor points to the soldiers he saved and says, "They know where you were." Being one of the most brilliant and well-implemented moments in any film I've seen this year. But I think I've made my point. I absolutely recommend this film to anyone who might be watching this video. Even if I wasn't a massive history buff who sold away the last year of his life to AP European history and learned about Dunkirk in that time, I would still be standing here telling you that Dunkirk is a fucking phenomenal film. And yeah, I know I usually end on a joke, but what do you want from me? Comedy needs a victim, and I've found absolutely nothing about this movie to criticize that wouldn't just end up being a nitpick. So go see it, and see it in the best theater you can manage. It's worth every second.